Okay, guys, here we go. Lesson 9-7. Again, we're in the same clothes. I know. I'm a slob. We're in the same clothes every single day. But here we go. 9-7 today. The last lesson of the chapter. 9-7 here, last lesson of chapter 9. So we'll kind of see what to do from here as far as if we're going to be together, if we're going to be apart. We'll kind of figure out what to do after this chapter here. But we'll get together. We'll talk about that when we can. But lesson 9-7, let's finish this chapter off. Equations of circles. So what we've been doing so far in the chapter is just look at the circle. We got a missing piece or whatever's going on, and we're trying to find that missing whatever it is. But now what they're doing is they're going to give us a circle or give us information about a circle, and we have to write an equation about it. So it's going to be a little bit different, but still all about circles. Okay, more and more circle stuff. All right, here we go. So equations of a circle in standard form. It's going to look something like that right there. Okay, so this right here is going to be kind of how we're going to be writing our answers on the next few slides. Okay, in this equation, the x and the y, if you look over here at the picture, the circle, the x and the y are the numbers that go on the outside of the circle. Now, I'm not really going to have numbers usually that go there. So the x and the y usually are going to still be x and y. So our final answers is going to always be an x and a y in our final answer for the equations of a circle. Now the new part is we have two new letters that we don't see very often. H and K. H and K are the center of the circle. So HK is the center of your circle. And just think about a coordinate. The H is always your first number in the coordinate, which is your x. And the K is always the second number in your coordinate, which is your y. Okay, H is left and right. Y is up and down, depending on if they don't give you the numbers. So like HK would be like going H this way and then K that way. That'd be my center. Okay, so HK, those numbers just go right there. Big thing to notice in this formula that a lot of people struggle with is that the formula starts off minuses. Okay, it starts off minuses. So if I put a positive number in there for H, it would be X minus that positive number. So it would stay minus. But if I put a negative number in there for the H, minus and negative would make me change it to a plus. Okay, we'll practice that on the next couple slides here. But that's one thing a lot of people struggle with is that they start off minuses. Then the very end of the formula, when it says r squared, just think about this chapter. What do we know about r's in a circle? The r is always your radius. So whatever your radius is, whatever the radius is, you're going to square it. So if it's like 5, you square it, make it 25. If it was square root of 19, we just square that square root of 19. Okay, so we'll get some couple of weird ones here to show you what happens on those weird ones. But our answer is going to look a little bit different today. It's not going to be like x equals a number. It's going to be an equation for our answer for most of these. Okay, so here we go. Let's do one. Okay, this question here says, write the equation of the circle with a center at 3, -3 and a radius of 6. So, equation of a circle. Here's just the thing that I was just looking at on the last slide. Okay, so the x and the y, like I said on the last slide, we usually don't put numbers in for the x and the y. Those are going to just stay x and stay y. They're just going to be part of our answers. Now, what they gave me here is they gave me a center at 3, -3. The first number in your center, just go right down here so I'm in room. The first number in your center, that's always your H. The second number is always your K. So I'm just going to put those two numbers into their two spots right there. So it'll say x minus, if that's a positive 3, it'll stay x minus positive 3. Okay, don't forget your little parentheses squared, so put a little square on there. And then in between, it's always a plus, so that'll always be a plus there. And then y minus, now my K is -3. So if I subtract a -3 minus a negative is the same as plus. Okay, so it's going to say y plus 3 squared. And then on the other side of the equal sign, the right side, it's always the radius squared. So if they tell me the radius is 6, all I'm going to do is just do 6 squared. Now don't just put 6 squared, make sure you actually square it. If they give you a number for the radius, then you actually square that number. 6 squared is 36. And that's the type of answer they're looking for here. When they say write an equation of the circle, that's what they're looking for right there. We don't have to do anything with these squares. The squares are just going to stay there. Usually we don't put numbers in for the x and the y because they're going to give us enough information to just put a number there, put a number there, square your radius, you're good to go. Okay, but that one there's kind of a pretty basic question, but that's kind of how they're going to ask a lot of these questions. So we'll see how hard it is for you, but hopefully that's not too bad if you understand that. There we go, there's our answer. There you go. Okay, next one. This is another way. And actually I have an IXL that's going to be, a couple IXL that's going to be assigned for this lesson. The first IXL you're going to do is going to be kind of like this, where they give you a circle and they give you all the information you need. You just have to write an equation off of that. So here we go. I'm just going to go and rewrite my formula again. Okay, so there's my formula. The h and the k are the center. Now look at what they gave me here. That 3, 3, you probably think, I'm going to put those numbers in the formula. But you got to think, h and the k aren't just the numbers they give you necessarily. It's got to be the center point of your circle. So the center point is right there. I need to figure out what are the coordinates of that center point. Okay, so don't use 3, 3 on this one because that's not the center of the circle. That's on the outside. So I need to figure out the coordinates of that. So my center, I'm just going to use C for center. Get this coordinate here be right 1, up 3. So my center is actually 1, 3, not 3, 3. So I'm not going to use 3, 3 here. I'm going to use 1, 3 for my center. My radius, and what a radius is, goes from the center to the edge of the circle. So that's going to be 2. They gave me 2 right there in the picture, so that's 2. Now I've got all the numbers I need. I just put them in their spots, and I'm good to go. So my first number is my h in the center. Second number is the k. So here we go. It'll be x minus 1. That'll stay minus since it's a positive number. Plus y minus 3 squared. Again, it's going to stay in minus because it's a positive 3. Equals, if the radius is 2, don't just put 2 there. You got to square it. 2 squared is 4. So always square your radius to put in that spot right there. There we go. So like I said, that's going to be how the first IXL is going to do you. It's going to give you a circle, and it's going to say write an equation that goes along with that circle. So that'd be an answer kind of like that. That's something you can very easily write on your own in a little bit. There we go. Okay, next one. Okay, thinking the same way. They gave me all the information I need. They say the center's at 2, -4. Radius is 4. I just need to put those numbers in the correct spots and simplify the way I need to simplify. So if it's a positive 2, that means it'll stay x minus 2. X plus 2, that's already gone. X minus 2, could be right. X plus 2, already gone. And if this says -4, when I put it in, it's minus a negative, which makes it plus 4. So that one can still be right. That one can still be right. The only difference is right here at the end. Which one is correct? So if the radius is 4 on this one, if the radius is 4, let's just go ahead and see it instead of me explaining it. The answer is C. Okay, the reason that's 4, the reason it's not 4, I should say, is because you always do radius squared. That's the number you put in the equation. So if 4 is the radius, 4 squared is going to give me 16. Okay, so that's how it's this one. Minus because it's positive, plus because it's negative, and then radius squared. Okay, and then the final one here before we move on to a different type of question. We look at our information here. They're trying to figure out what equation goes along with this. Now this looks a little bit different. See all these say x squared. Now I haven't explained that yet. But the center here, first you have to decide which one's the center. Is it 0, 6 or 0, 3? It's going to be 0, 3. So this is my center. So instead of looking at my answers here, I'm going to come over here on the side and try to explain why it looks like x squared. So if I go to my formula, it's x minus my h would be the 0. So x minus 0 squared. This is always a plus in the middle. Y minus 3 squared. And then equals the radius. They didn't actually write it for me, but you just count the boxes here. So I'm starting here at the center. 1, 2, 3. If the radius is 3, write that over here. Radius is 3, I always put the radius squared in the formula. So don't just put 3 in there. 3 squared. Remember 3 squared is 3 times 3? It's like 9. So this answer right here, this answer is not a wrong answer. It's very close to like the one they have over here, which will tell you the right answer is right there. What they want you to do from there is just try to think logically here. What happens if you do x minus nothing? What's going to happen to that x? If you subtract nothing off of something, nothing's going to happen, right? It's going to stay the same. It's not going to change. So x minus 0, there's really no reason to put the minus 0. So the nicer way to write this, if you have a 0 in your formula like this, just drop it down and say x squared, or it could be on the y also. Drop it down to y squared if it was y minus 0. But I can drop that down to just x squared because subtracting nothing does nothing. Okay? So I don't have to write minus 0. So a little bit weird looking, but that right there, if you have zeros in your formula, you're going to have like the variable squared instead of having parentheses. Okay, so that's a little bit of that, trying to write an equation off a circle or off of information. The next one here is a little bit tougher. So here we go. It says write the equation of the circle with a center at -3, -2, and it passes through 1, -2. Okay, so what I want you to do here is when it says passes through, and what it means by the center, I know you guys know what the center means. So it's saying -3, -2 is there at the center. When it says passes through, that means that the actual circle hits that point. So I'm going to go over here on this side. Let's say this point right here is 1, -2. So it's a lot different than the other ones. They didn't give me a radius. They gave me the center, so the center's pretty normal. Just slide that over a little bit. Leave one center. So that's the center, and that's on the actual circle. The way you find the radius, since they didn't give it to me, is just think what a radius is. A radius is from the center to the edge of the circle. So if I draw a line connecting those 2 points together, that right there is a radius. So if I can figure out what that distance is, then I'm going to figure out my radius. Now I just said the word here. We haven't used it in a long time. It's been a while since we've used the distance formula. But the way you figure out how far 2 points are apart is use the distance formula. Okay, so refresh your memory. Distance, d for distance, is this big square root formula. x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Now what's going on here is I have my first point and my second point. These coordinates, these numbers, are going to go all in these spots here, and I can figure out the distance between those 2 points. So here we go. Instead of using d for distance, because that can be confusing, because we have d for diameter, I'm going to put this r in the d spot. So say r equals. Now, what I want to do from here is decide which one's my 1s and which one's my 2s. So let's say this point here is my first one. It doesn't matter. Say this is my x1, y1. Okay, so remember in the coordinate, the first number is an x, the second number is the y, so this coordinate is my 1s, x1, y1. Then I come over to this one has to be my 2s then, x2, y2. So now I put all these 4 numbers into their correct spots in this formula, and then try to simplify it down. So here we go, big square root is going to be on the top of this. Okay, plugging it in. I got x2 minus x1. x2 is 1 minus x1 is -3. So there's that whole minus and negative thing. If I subtract a -3, that's the same as addition. 1 plus 3. Okay, parentheses squared. Plus in the middle, that's always a plus right there. And then I do y2 minus y1 for the next step. So y2 is -2 minus y1's a -2 also. So minus a -2 is the same as that. And then parentheses squared. Okay, so getting the numbers in there, that's probably the hardest part. Just being able to understand what's going on in this question, put the numbers in your distance formula, and then we kind of simplify from here. So here we go. R equals square is going to kind of hang out for a little bit. You want to do order of operations, so we're going to do parentheses first, then we'll do exponents after that. So 1 plus 3, that's 4, and then it's still squared. I'll leave that for now. Plus in the middle, negative 2 plus 2, that's just 0. Okay, so 0, and that's still squared also. Okay, I'll keep simplifying. R equals square root. 4 squared is 16. Do we know what 0 squared is? 0 times 0? Still 0. So I can put 16 plus 0 if I wanted to. But same idea with that whole x minus 0 earlier. If you add 0, nothing happens. So there's no reason to put plus 0. So I'm just going to leave it like that, square root of 16. And then you actually try to get that square root. Square root of 16 comes out to a nice whole number. Not just 4. Now that's not the answer. We did all that work. Looks great. That's good work. But that's not what they're asking. Let's go back to the question. It says, write the equation of the circle. So we need our answer to be the equation of the circle again, just like we did the other couple. But we pretty much did all the hard work already. So I got r is 4. And then if you have to read up in the question again, the center is this one, not the 1, negative 2. So I don't use these numbers. I'm going to use those numbers for my, so I'm going to write it down here. Negative 3, negative 2, that's my h and my k, and there's my r. R is 4. So I'm going to slide, let's see, I'll slide this over a little bit so I have some room here. R equals 4, so I'm going to write down here, write my answer here. So remember it's parentheses, x minus my h. So the h is negative 3, minus a negative, we make it plus 3, parentheses squared. It's always a plus in the middle. Y minus, my k is negative 2, minus a negative 2, we'll make it plus 2, parentheses squared. And then at the very end, on the other side of the equal sign, it's always the radius squared. The radius squared. So 4 squared is 16. So there we go. So those are take a little bit of work. You got to refresh your memory on the distance formula. But if you can do the distance formula, that's the only hard step about this question. Get that radius, and then make sure you use the right numbers in your h and your k spots, and you should be good to go. Okay, but here's all the work that I just did. There we go. Okay, one more very similar to that. I'm not going to do it on the board, just so if you want to try it on your own, you can kind of see if you're doing it right, if you're not doing it right. You can use that last example again to kind of take it step by step if it helps you out to do it that way. But you got center at negative 1, 0, and it passes through 1, 0. You got to do the same ideas. You got x1, y1, x2, y2. Plug those numbers into your distance formula to figure out your radius. And then at the very end, you put your answer in the equation of a circle formula. So if you do it correctly, you should get A. Okay. So there we go. So almost done with our lesson here. The last part of the lesson is, instead of writing the equation, I'm going to give you guys some equations, and we're going to have to try to figure out how to draw the circles to go along with that. So this is how the second IXL is going to be whenever you get to IXLs here in a little bit. You're going to have an equation given to you, and it's going to want you to get on this graph and make your circle. So we're going to practice that a little bit, make sure we're good to go. So here we go, have one of these. X squared plus y squared equals 9. So if I give you that equation right there, what you have to figure out is, what's the center and what's the radius? If you can figure those out, then you pretty much got the question done. So the center is the coordinate. Now if you guys remember, the center is your h and your k. But look at this one, it's kind of a special one. You guys might remember how we did this a second ago. If it just says x squared and y squared, what's going on is you really have x minus 0, and then y minus 0. And you just get rid of those minus zeros. So get rid of the minus 0, get rid of the minus 0. So when I see x squared or y squared, my center is 0, 0. Okay, so that's a little bit different looking, but if you have one like this, it's going to be 0, 0 for your center. And then for the radius, if you guys remember, when I put it into the formula, we always did radius squared. That's what got me this number. So now if I'm going to take the number out of the formula, you have to do the opposite of squaring. Okay, the opposite of squaring is going to be the square root. Square root. So if they gave me 9, the radius is going to be the square root of that 9. So square root of 9 is 3. So now I've got my information. I just now have to go onto that graph and make my circle. So the center is 0, 0. So I'll put a little dot there, 0, 0. And then remember what a radius is. A radius is from the center to the edge of the circle. So from here I'm going to count out 3 in every direction. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's about the best I can do as far as making my circle. Now I just have to do my best to, don't do straight lines, because we're not doing like a diamond or a square shape here. We're doing a circle. So try to make it as best you can, some nice smooth curves going through these points. Oh my goodness, you can see how hard it is. First try, so give me a break here. First try. Still not good, but you get the idea. Alright, so you make 4 points going out the same distance each way, because that's your radius. So go out the same distance each direction, you got your radius, you then have your circle. Okay, so I'm going to just clear this off and do one more with you, just to practice it again so you know what you're doing here. So here we go. How about x plus 4 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 16. Okay, so now the goal here is, what's the center? What's the radius? Okay, if you want to pause it here and try to do it on your own, that's a good idea. But also go ahead and run through it. But if you want to pause it and do it on your own, go for it. So the center, the h is always the number that goes with your x, and that's always going to be your first number. But you have to remember, the formula always starts off x minus h. So if that says plus 4, what we really did, and never we did it earlier, is if you put a negative 4 in there, minus a negative makes a plus. So it's going to always be the opposite sign of what you think. When you're pulling these numbers out, it's opposite from what it looks like. So if that says plus 4, they really did minus a negative, so that's a negative 4. And over here, if this says minus 3, that means they put a positive number into that spot, and it stayed minus. So that 3 is still a positive 3. Okay, so the signs are opposite of what they look like. And in the final step for the radius, if that's 16, you always do the square root of that number to pull that number out of the formula. So the radius is going to be the square root of 16, which is 4. So then you go to your graph, go to your center, negative 4, 3. Remember, you always go left and right first, then up and down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. There's my center. Then if the radius is 4, then I go from that point, not from 0, 0. From this point right here, I'm going to go 4 in every direction. 4 in every direction. So from right here, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we go. So it should look very symmetrical. And then the final step is try to draw some nice smooth curves to make a nice circle. Better. Not good, but better. Okay, there you go. So that's the idea. Biggest thing on this type of question here, guys, like I said, this is your second IXL, doing stuff like this, is doing the whole sign triangle. If it says plus, that's really a negative. If it says minus, that's really a positive. And then don't forget to take the square root of your number to get your radius. Okay, that's line 7. That's the end of our chapter. So, like I said, we'll kind of go from here. I'm going to show you what we have here. Here's the 2 IXLs I'd like you to try to do to go along with this lesson. V3 to a 50 SMART score and V7 to a 50 SMART score. Okay? So let me know if you need help on that. You can always email me. If you guys get stuck on anything, you can always email me to get questions out of me, and I will help you out if you're stuck. But hopefully, use the information they give you. If you do miss a question and you have no idea what's going on, IXL does a really good job of explaining stuff for you. So use their information, use what they give you, and hopefully you guys can get through this. Okay, but I think the last thing I have for you guys before we hopefully come back is I have a Chapter 9 study guide, and that'll be after you guys get done with these iExcels. And I think there's a worksheet along with it. But hopefully we can figure this stuff out. If you're stuck on something, don't hesitate to ask. Okay? Thank you for watching. See you guys soon.